The fall of James Foster. By Monday morning, James had settled into the CEO office like he was king of the world. He made Sarah, my former assistant, bring him coffee. He kicked off his shoes. He even changed the company motto from integrity and innovation to winning the future, whatever that meant. He didn't know what was about to happen. At 9 a.m., every screen in his office lit up. It started with a video, a voice recording, clear and sharp. James's voice. My idiot brother does all the work anyway. Just make sure the payment goes to my Cayman account. James jumped up, trying to turn off the monitors. Nothing worked. The video kept playing, on every screen, not just in his office, but across the building. Then his phone buzzed, again and again. The SEC had received an anonymous tip: insider trading, tax evasion, fraud. Attached were documents, emails, bank transfers, all showing a decade's worth of James's crimes. Somehow, all his private communications had leaked, to the board, to the investors, even to a few journalists. Down in the lobby, 2 federal agents were walking through the front door. I watched the live security feed from home. James's face turned from smug to terrified. He picked up the phone to call Dad, but Dad's line was busy. Probably because he was getting his own email, one that included screenshots of every crime James had hidden under the rug, every deal he cut behind Dad's back, every penny he stole. At 9:30, Sarah walked into James's office, calm and steady, like always. "Mr. Foster," she said, "the board has requested an emergency meeting. Also, the FBI is here to see you." James was sweating now. "Tell them I'm busy. Cancel everything. Call IT." Sarah smiled. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. The entire IT department just resigned. They sent a company-wide email this morning, something about loyalty to the person who actually built this company." "You can't do that," James shouted. "We have contracts." Sarah placed a folder on his desk. "Their contracts are with a subsidiary company, the one that owns all our patents and software. That company is no longer affiliated with Foster Technologies." James flipped through the papers. Inside was a single-page ownership chart showing the truth. While he was partying, I had created Foster Innovation Labs, a separate company, one that quietly held all the valuable parts of our business: the intellectual property, the client relationships, the contracts, the core staff. And I owned 100% of it. James looked up at Sarah, pale and shaking. "But the clients? They've already been informed," she said. "Most have signed new contracts with Foster Innovation Labs. They prefer working with the person who actually did the work." The color drained from his face. He had taken over a company that was now just an empty shell. No clients, no tech, no staff, just a name. Then the office door opened. 2 FBI agents walked in. Behind them was Mr. Patterson, our head of legal. "James Foster," one agent said, "we need to speak with you about several financial transactions." James stood up, voice trembling. "You can't do this. I'm the CEO." "Mr. Patterson," cleared his throat, "not anymore. The board just voted to remove you, effective immediately." James looked ready to explode. "I own this company." "You own shares in Foster Technologies," Mr. Patterson said, "but as of 9 a.m., it has no technology, no clients, and no employees. The stock price reflects that." James lunged for his computer, probably to check the stock ticker, but all he saw was more videos of his crimes. As the agents handcuffed him and led him out, I sent one final company-wide email, from my laptop, using remote access. "To all Foster Technologies employees. You have a choice: stay with a sinking ship, or join us at Foster Innovation Labs, where your hard work is respected, your jobs are secure, and your future is bright. Sincerely, Michael Foster." Within an hour, 90% of the staff had accepted my offer. But I wasn't done yet. There was still the matter of Dad's retirement fund. The fallout hit hard. Within 24 hours, Foster Technologies stock dropped 70%. News of James's arrest was everywhere. Tech CEO caught in fraud scandal made front-page business news. 3 days later, I was sitting in my new office at Foster Innovation Labs. Sarah walked in with someone familiar, Mr. Goldman, my father's financial advisor. "He's been calling non-stop," Goldman said, nervously, "ever since he realized his retirement fund is gone. Because Dad had invested everything, his entire portfolio, in Foster Technologies stock, and now it was worthless. That afternoon, I agreed to meet with them, Mom and Dad. They looked like they'd aged 10 years. Mom's eyes were red from crying. Dad sat down slowly, quieter than I'd ever seen him. "Michael," he said, voice trembling, "I know I made mistakes." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't get angry. I just looked him in the eye. "Mistakes? You let James cover up his crimes. You fired me in front of the board. You gave away everything I built." He tried to protest. "I didn't know." "You knew," I said quietly. "You just didn't care." Mom began to cry again. I handed her a tissue. Then I pulled out a folder. "Here's what's going to happen," I told them. "Foster Innovation Labs will buy back your company shares, at the original purchase price." Their faces lit up, until I continued. "There are conditions. You sign an NDA about James's crimes, you retire quietly to that house in Florida you always wanted, and you stay out of my business, completely." Dad tried to argue, but I held up my hand. "One more thing, the money goes into a trust, with a financial guardian. You'll get a monthly allowance, no wild investments, no favors for James." "You don't trust us," Dad said softly. "No," I replied, "you taught me not to." They signed the papers. As security escorted them out, Dad turned around one last time. "I was wrong about you," he said. "You're a better businessman than I ever was." I smiled. "No, Dad, I'm just better at knowing who my enemies are." 5 years later, Foster Innovation Labs is a billion-dollar company, known for its ethics and innovation. James served 2 years in prison. Now he's a bartender in Vegas. My parents live quietly in Florida. Sometimes they send postcards. I don't answer. Last week, I got invited to speak at my old business school. The topic? Integrity in family business. I accepted. After all, I have quite a story to tell. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying the people who tried to ruin you. It's building something so strong, they have to live with the fact that they bet on the wrong person. And while the peacocks were showing off their feathers, I was the eagle, quiet, patient, and always watching. And now? Now I fly higher than they ever dreamed. James's voice echoed through the office speakers. "My idiot brother does all the work anyway. Just make sure the payment goes to my Cayman account." Everyone in the building heard it. The monitors in his office lit up with the recording. James scrambled to shut them off, pressing buttons, yelling at his assistant, but nothing worked. The video kept playing, over and over. Then his phone buzzed. The SEC had just received an anonymous tip, complete with every document, email, and bank record proving James had been involved in insider trading for years. His inbox exploded. Someone had leaked all of his private emails to the company board. Downstairs, federal agents were walking through the lobby. I watched it all unfold through the security cameras. James's confident smile faded into confusion, then panic. He tried to call Dad. No answer, probably because Dad was receiving his own little surprise package full of the truth. At exactly 9:30 a.m., Sarah walked into James's office. "Mr. Foster," she said calmly, "the board is calling for an emergency meeting. Also, the FBI would like a word." James jumped out of his chair, sweating. "Cancel everything, get IT up here, shut down the network." Sarah smiled. "Actually, that won't be possible. The entire IT department just resigned. They sent a company-wide email this morning, saying they refuse to work under your leadership, something about loyalty to the person who actually built the company." "What? That's illegal. They can't do that." Sarah placed a folder on his desk. Their contracts were with Foster Innovation Labs, a separate company, and as of this morning, that company is no longer connected to Foster Technologies. James opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside was proof. I had quietly set up Foster Innovation Labs years ago. It owned all the software, the patents, and most of the client contracts, and I owned all of it. James's voice cracked. "But, the clients. They've already been told about the change," Sarah said. "Most of them have already signed new contracts with us. They prefer working with the person who was actually doing the job all along." At that moment, he understood. I hadn't just taken back what was mine, I had taken everything that mattered. James had tricked me out of a title, but I walked away with the entire heart of the company. 2 FBI agents entered. Behind them came our legal advisor, Mr. Patterson. "James Foster, One agent said, "We'd like to ask you some questions about financial misconduct." "You can't do this. I'm the CEO," James shouted. Mr. Patterson stepped forward with another folder. "Actually, the board just voted to remove you, effective immediately." James looked like he might faint. "You still own shares," Patterson continued, "but those shares are now practically worthless. The stock price dropped 70% this morning." James lunged for his computer, maybe trying to check the numbers, but his screens were still playing videos of him bragging, stealing, lying. As the agents led him out in handcuffs, I sent out one last message to the entire company. "You have a choice: stay on a sinking ship, or come with us to Foster Innovation Labs. Your jobs are safe, your benefits are better, and most of all, your work will finally be respected." Within an hour, 90% of the staff had joined me. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more person who needed to face what he'd ignored for too long: my father. The next day, his financial advisor, Mr. Goldman, came to see me. "Your father's been calling non-stop," he said nervously. "He just found out his entire retirement fund was invested in Foster Technologies stock, and now, it's worth almost nothing." My father had always said, "Skin in the game proves commitment." What it really proved was arrogance. He never listened when people told him to diversify. He put everything into one company, and lost it all. "Set a meeting," I told Goldman, "tomorrow, 10 a.m., at my office." The next morning, my parents arrived at Foster Innovation Labs. Mom looked heartbroken, Dad looked like a ghost. They sat in the visitor chairs, the same style my father once made me sit in when he used to lecture me about leadership. "Michael," Dad began, "I know I made mistakes." I nodded. "You let James ruin the company. You fired me without cause. You stood by while he lied, cheated, and stole, because he was your favorite." "I didn't know." "You knew," I said flatly. "You just didn't care." My mother wiped tears from her face. I passed her a tissue. "But let's not pretend you're here to apologize. You're here because you're broke." They said nothing. I pulled out a folder and opened it slowly. "Here's what I'm offering. Foster Innovation Labs will buy your worthless shares in Foster Technologies. I'll pay you the original purchase value." Their eyes lit up, but I wasn't finished. "On 3 conditions. You sign a non-disclosure agreement. You move to that retirement house in Florida and stay out of my way. You don't interfere with my business again." My mother whispered, "You do that for us?" "Not for you," I said, "for the kid I used to be, the one who believed you loved him. He deserved better." Dad lowered his head. "You don't trust us." "You're right," I said, "but I learned that lesson from the best." They signed. As security led them out, my father looked back. "I was wrong about you, son. You're a better businessman than I ever was." "No," I said calmly, "I just knew who the real enemies were." 5 years passed. Foster Innovation Labs became a billion-dollar company, respected for its innovation and integrity. James served 2 years in prison. Last I heard, he was bartending in Vegas. My parents live quietly in Florida. Sometimes they send postcards. I never reply. Last week, I was invited to speak at my old business school. The topic: the importance of integrity in family business. I said yes. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's building something so strong, so undeniable, that they're forced to watch you rise, while they fall. And when people ask how the quiet one won in the end, I tell them, while the peacocks show off, the eagle watches, and waits. Because in the end, it's not about who starts at the top. It's about who's still standing when the dust settles.